Hello friends, good morning everybody. Now in this session I am going to explain you human respiratory system. What is respiratory system? A system which is useful to carry out a process of respiration is respiratory system. That means the main function of respiratory system is respiration. What is respiration? Respiration is a process which is responsible for releasing energy from the food material. After taking the food material is digested into simple molecules. From that simple molecules of food material, energy is released with the help of oxygen. This process is known as respiration, and the entire process of respiration is performed by a system in human beings, that is human respiratory system. Mostly in all the organisms, to carry out the process of respiration there will be a system, that is respiratory system. But in some unicellular organisms, the respiratory system may not be present. They may adopt different kind of process to carry out respiration. But respiration is very common process in organism. To perform respiration, there is a respiratory system. Now we are going to concentrate on human respiratory system. What are the parts of respiratory system? The parts of respiratory system are like this. This is the diagram of respiratory system. Now the parts are like this: nostrils, nasal cavities, and the pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and the lungs. That means alveoli. All these are the parts of respiratory system. Let's try to learn in detail, one by one, all the respiratory parts. First of all, nostrils. Nostrils are the openings of respiratory system. In human beings, that means we have two nostrils. That means two openings into the respiratory system at our nose. So two holes are present in our nose. That holes are called as nostrils. So nostrils, they open into respiratory tract. So nostrils are the openings of respiratory system. Two nostrils, they open into a cavity. That cavities are nasal cavity. So first of all, nostrils are the openings of respiratory system. Through the nostrils, the air from atmosphere enters the respiratory system. Next one, nasal cavities. Nasal cavities, the word cavity means empty space. Empty space is called as cavity. Nasal cavity means what? An empty space present inside the nose is nasal cavity. So we have two nostrils. So in each nostril there is a cavity. There is an empty place. So in two nostrils, two empty spaces are present. They are called two nasal cavities. That means we have two nasal cavities. Here nasal cavities play very important role in the process of respiration. How do they participate? What is the role of them? We will see. Simply here first, these are the holes. The holes are called nostrils, and nostrils opens into a cavity. They are nasal cavity, and nasal cavity is very much important. That's what we are discussing. Nasal cavity, the inner walls of nasal cavities are covered by a membrane, that is mucous membrane. Mucous membrane secretes a gum-like liquid. A sticky substance is secreted by mucous membrane. That sticky substance which is secreted from mucous membrane is mucus. And mucus plays very important role in regulation of temperature of air. Generally, we inhale the air and we exhale the air. So, when we inhale the air, if the temperature of inhaled air is more than our body temperature and the temperature is decreased to our body temperature, or if we inhale very cool air, that means the temperature of inhaled air is very less than our body temperature, and again the temperature of air increases. Like this, mucus or mucous membrane regulate the temperature of air. So that can be equal to our body temperature, that is 37 degrees of Celsius. Like this, mucous membrane regulates the temperature of air, and mucous membrane also prevents the entry of dust particles or microorganisms which enter along with the air into our respiratory tract. And next one, here inside these nasal cavities and some hair also present. The hair present in nasal cavities, they prevent the entry of dust particles which try to enter into respiratory tract along with the air. So all the dust particles are prevented by hair, and the dust particles also prevented by mucous membrane or mucus. Like this, nasal cavities play very important role in the process of respiration. And nostrils and nasal cavities completed. Next, third one, pharynx. Pharynx means what? Pharynx is a common passage, or it is a junction of foot pipe and windpipe. Here generally, this is mouth, mouth opens into a cavity, that is oral cavity, and this is nose. Nose opens into a cavity, that is nasal cavity. These two cavities are divided by a divider. This is called palate. Palate is the divider between oral cavity and nasal cavity. And again, here oral cavity enters into food pipe and nasal cavity enters into windpipe. Here, all these four ways are joining together. A junction of food pipe and windpipe. Here we can see. This is the pharynx. A junction of food pipe and windpipe is called pharynx. Here, this is oral cavity, this is nasal cavity. And this is windpipe, this is food pipe. But here, the junction is known as pharynx, but here is a problem. What is the problem? Here, the food may enter windpipe or the air may enter food pipe. If the air enters into food pipe, there is no problem, but the food enters into windpipe, there will be a lot of problem. So, for preventing this problem, on the top of this windpipe, there is a lid-like structure. This lid-like structure name is epiglottis. This is epiglottis. Epiglottis is a cartilaginous lid-like structure, that is made of cartilage, and that lid-like structure is present on the top of this trachea. Here it is trachea or windpipe. On the windpipe there is a lid-like structure, that is called epiglottis. Epiglottis prevents the entry of food into trachea. So it can prevent the entry of food, so it can protect the lungs from getting damaged. So this is what the role of epiglottis, and it is pharynx. And next part, fourth part is larynx. What is larynx? Larynx also known as voice box. Why it is called voice box? First of all, where is larynx located? First, this pipe name is trachea or windpipe. The upper part of windpipe is known as larynx. Trachea is the long tube-like structure. Upper part of this trachea is known as larynx or voice box, and it is responsible for generation of voice or sound. How the sound is generated? That larynx contains some cartilaginous vocal cords. Some string-like structures are present. String-like structures are located inside the larynx. When we exhale the air, that vocal cords get vibrated, so that sound is generated. So larynx is responsible for generation of sound. The next one, trachea. Trachea, here the pipe, a long tube-like structure, pipe-like structure which is present in chest cavity, that is trachea. Upper part is already we have known that is larynx, and remaining total part is trachea. This is also called windpipe, and it helps in transportation of wind into the lungs. The next one, bronchi. Now here it is trachea. Trachea is divided into two small branches. These two small branches are called as bronchi. And again, each bronchus opens into lung, and that bronchus is divided into so many other small branches. These smaller branches of this bronchus are called bronchioles. Bronchioles are very smaller branches developed from bronchus or bronchi. And next one, final part, lungs. We have two lungs in our chest cavity. Chest cavity is also called as thoracic cavity. The lungs are spongy in nature with elasticity. That means they have elastic nature. They can stretch easily. When we inhale the air, they expand. Volume of lungs increases. When we exhale the air, automatically the volume or the size of lungs decreases. Like this, they have some elastic nature. And these are very smooth organs. They are spongy in nature, and they are covered by, lungs are covered by two membranes. The membranes which are covering the lungs are known as pleura. Pleura protect the lungs from external pressures and injuries or from any jerks and shocks. Like this, pleura protect the lungs. And here, right lung is somewhat larger than the left lung. Left lung is somewhat smaller, and right one is somewhat larger. Why? What is the reason? Here the reason is, our heart is located between two lungs, but the posterior part, that means downward part of the heart, is slightly bent towards left side, so that to give the space to the heart, here left lung is somewhat smaller than right lung. So this is about location of the lungs and structure of lungs, and how they are actually made of. Each lung is made of so many smaller air chambers. That means so many sac-like structures, so many air bags are present inside the lungs. That air bags or air sacs are called as alveoli. Alveoli are very small air sacs located inside each lung. So some millions of air sacs are present in each lung. That's why they are called as structural and functional units of lungs. And what is the function of alveoli? Alveoli receive air from atmosphere, and again they give the oxygen to the blood. Here these bronchioles release air into the alveoli, and again from here alveoli the blood receives oxygen from alveoli like this, and again the blood releases carbon dioxide into the alveoli like this. Lungs are made of so many small air chambers or air sacs. These air sacs are known as alveoli. Alveoli helps in exchange of gases. So this is what the structure of lungs. Now how the air enters into the lungs? The pathway of air is like this. First of all, air enters through nostrils and it comes into nasal cavity, and nasal cavities to pharynx, and pharynx to larynx, larynx to trachea, trachea to bronchi, bronchi to bronchioles, and each bronchiole opens into an alveolus. So in alveolus the air is released, and from that alveoli blood receives oxygen and releases carbon dioxide into the alveolus. From that alveolus again the carbon dioxide is released out through bronchiole and bronchi and trachea and larynx and pharynx and nasal cavity and nostrils and into atmosphere. Like this, respiration process takes place in respiratory system. To run the respiratory system, all these parts are very systematically arranged, and each part involved in a specific function to carry out the process of respiration.